Hello, I'm Frost, and welcome to my twice monthly regular update on everything that's going on in the world of sci-fi gaming. Alright, welcome back. So let's start off with some channel news. So next month, so not the next update, but the update after, we're going to be doing a giveaway on the monthly update. This is either going to be a $50 Steam voucher, or if you're an EVE Online player, it will be 1,500 Plex. The reason why we're doing this is we're coming up real close now to 2,000 subs, which is awesome. So thank you very much for all the support. And so it's coming up to Christmas as well. So it seemed like a good time for us to kind of do a giveaway on the channel. And so be sure to kind of like, subscribe and hit the bell icon, all that kind of good stuff, so that you get the notification when that update finally comes out. Right, okay, let's jump into the actual news itself now. First up, stuff that's happened since my last update. Obviously the big one, October 27th, Cyberpunk 2077 has been delayed until the 10th of December. So it's, I think, the fourth delay now. Each delay keeps getting shorter and shorter. I'm not going to dwell over it. The reason for it is that there's 9 different versions of the game for all the different platforms. And even though the game is gold, they're having issues potentially with making sure the delivery of these is flawless. Everyone has their opinion about it. Twitter blew up. And that's all I have to say, because I'm sure you've read all the news about it already. But other news on October 27th, Ghostrunner came out. It was actually released for PC, Xbox and PS4. And it is a ninja first-person cyberpunk-y hack and slash. And from what I understand, I haven't actually played the game. It's not kind of my thing personally. I'm more strategy-based. But if you kind of like that first-person view, it is pretty hard. So it's going to give you a good challenge. And it is now out. And it does look very nice as well. Very glorious graphics and fast action. All right, then on October 28th, not sci-fi specific, but still a big deal, we had the AMD announcement for the 6000 series graphics card. So we've got the 6800, which they pitched against the 2080 Ti because the 3070 hadn't actually been released at that point. We've got the 6800 XT, which is going to go up head-to-head against the 3080. And then the big surprise at the end was that we had the 6900, and that's going up against the 3090, and at a much lower price point as well. Now, the release dates are 18th of November for the 6800 series, that's the standard in the XT, and the 6900 is coming on December the 8th. And apparently there's not going to be OEM versions of that. It's literally just AMD only for that card, which is quite interesting. So yeah, interesting to see how that all plays out. And the battle between NVIDIA and AMD is now definitely full on. Then October 29th, Stellaris released the Necroids Species Pack. Now, I have lost count of the number of different DLCs and packs that are there for Stellaris, but I know there is a huge fan base for Stellaris. I've played it a little bit, not as much as I should, because it is right up my street in terms of kinds of games that I like to play, but there's just so much of it. And but I am sure for all those Stellaris fans, you are going to be over the moon that you've now got even more species to include in your warfare. So there you go. So that brings us up to date on stuff that happened since the last update. Then we come on to new releases. Now, new releases are actually in very short order for this month because I think a lot of things got pushed back and moved out of the way of Cyberpunk, which is kind of this behemoth that's just taking over all the news outlets, etc. And so I found a couple of indie games. The first one is Kosmokrats. And this indie game is based around 1960s technology. And the idea is that the Soviets are trying to put up these drones to assemble these structures, and it looks like, essentially, it's like space Tetris. It looks interesting, and yeah, it's a novel idea, and hopefully it will do well. And it comes out on the 5th of November for PC only, for Windows, and it will be available on Steam. Then on the 10th of November, this is very significant for my channel, we've got Planetfall Star Kings DLC, which is the third DLC in all the announced DLCs. We originally had Revelations, then we had Invasions, and now we have Star Kings, which brings us a new faction called the Oathbound. And I will be going into detail with that at release time. I will be looking into all the various the faction itself and all the other elements related around the DLC, and as usual I will be putting out a video all about it. Then we come on to another indie game. This one is coming out on the 17th of November, called Mars Horizon, and it kind of has a real Kerbal feel about it. The idea is you build a base and you have an option of different bases to choose from, so you can choose different space agencies and they will each have their own kind of flavor to them. And then once you've got this base built, then you build your rockets. And the idea is you conduct a number of different missions so that eventually you land on Mars. Now, the thing that makes this game stand out from others is it was actually created with the support of the ESA, the European Space Agency, ESA, and the UK Space Agency. So hopefully it's going to be pretty full on in terms of its physics and everything else. And yeah, I'm going to take a look at this. I think it's going to be very interesting. So there you go, Mars Horizon, 17th of November. Right, then we come on to updates. I've only got one this month, but it's a good one. CloudPunk has done an update which now includes a first-person view called their cockpit update. Now, CloudPunk, my words are messing up. CloudPunk is one of those surprise games of 2020, definitely. It's an indie game, you know, it's kind of got that pixel art to it, but it's set in this kind of cyberpunk universe, very kind of Blade Runner-ish, very moody, and it's been a big hit. It's done really, really well, and I'm really pleased to see kind of indie games like that just rise up, and they've been really good with their updates. And so if you fancy kind of an adventure game and you want to wander around this kind of Blade Runner universe doing your parcel deliveries, never check inside the parcel, that's one of the rules, then you now can do it in first-person view with the cockpit update. Right, moving on to new availability. Now this one's a bit tough this month because obviously we've got Xbox Series X and PS5 coming out. So there's been loads and loads of announcements for all the stuff that's being ported to those new consoles. I won't go into detail on all of those because there's just too many. But if you're a fan, I'm sure, of PS5 or Xbox Series X, you'll be looking into that yourself anyway. But one of the things that is notable is Switch is getting Control. This is developed by Remedy. Control was kind of those dark horses that came out at end of August 2019. And it's been one of those kind of quiet sort of games, but it's done pretty well and it's built a loyal fan base. Now this is coming out for Switch. What is unfortunate for me, I think, is that it's only coming out as a cloud version at this point, which means that it is streaming only. The Switch have started doing this where you get games that you can play on your Switch, but you need to have a really good internet connection in order to play it, which to me kind of goes against the Switch mentality. The idea is that you just pick it up and take it with you, and you can play it anywhere. So that kind of negates that. So I'm hoping that Control will actually come to Switch as a full-blown game that you can actually keep on the Switch itself, as this kind of seems like a half-house kind of solution to things. But anyway, you can now play Control on the Switch. Now we come on to announcements. So the first big announcement is No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky, the game that just keeps on giving. No Man's Sky has been the ultimate turnaround story. What we have now is another free upgrade. All these upgrades have been free from No Man's Sky from Hello Games. It's the next gen and PC upgrade. And what this gives us is, for the consoles, it gives them 4K 60 frames per second. They've updated all of the graphics, so you've got ray tracing, you've got shadows, you've got all the kind of cool stuff that you would expect, from a graphics upgrade these days. It now has a support for bigger bases. So you're going to be able to build these superb mega structures, which you couldn't do before. The planets are all going to be lusher, there's going to be more vegetation, more detail, all that kind of good stuff. And they've then also boosted the multiplayer. Multiplayer is now going to go up to crossplay with 32 players, which is cool. And then we've got the load time reductions that you would expect from the new next-gen consoles. I don't know if that actually applies to PC, but it definitely obviously applies to the Xbox Series X and the PS5. Then the next announcement is Everspace 2. Now, Everspace 2 has kind of been building up to its early access, and it was slated for the end of 2020, so it was December. And as you know, that big elephant has moved from November to December. That's Cyberpunk. And Everspace realized, the developers of Everspace realized that Rockfish, there you go, Rockfish realized that they were going to just be overshadowed and their launch would just be nullified. And as a consequence, they've decided to move back their early access launch very wisely, I think, to January. But what they have done on the flip side was they decided that they would release their pre-release keys. Originally, it was going to be like beginning of November sometime, but they've actually done it right now. Anybody that's a backer has now received an email, so they've already got access to the pre-release. And then the rest of us, unfortunately, I didn't back it, but I should have done probably. It's done really well in its development, and I'm looking forward to playing it when it comes out in early access in January, which is normally a really quiet month for releases, so that's a really cool thing. I did play a little bit through the Indie Arena booth through Gamescom, and it does look like it's going to turn out to be a really, really good game. Then another announcement is the Riftbreaker. So they were also looking to release towards the end of the year. They've now moved it back to 2021. But Riftbreaker is going to be one, like CloudPunk was in 2020. I think Riftbreaker is going to be that small studio big release of 2021. They put loads of work into the game. They've been really, really good in interacting with their community. They've managed to get kind of a boost up from AMD that they've included the ray tracing with AMD, and they're doing a special launch of the video on the 12th of November, excuse me, showing Riftbreaker on AMD graphics cards with ray tracing. Excuse me one sec. Okay, that's better. Right, one other element as well, as regards to EXOR Studios, their community manager, a guy called Piotr, who's also known as Void Reaver. I've had dealings with Piotr over email when I streamed Riftbreaker, the prologue and the early access stuff. And he contracted that virus that is the bane of our lives right now in a really, really bad way. But I'm pleased to hear that he's recovering. So I want to send him my best wishes and get well soon, Piotr. And I wish to impart upon all of you his message, which is wear a mask, stay safe, and observe your social distancing. And yeah, Piotr, all the best, mate. All right, then moving on, we're going to come on to other news. And guess what? EVE Online, because there's always EVE Online news. And there's a lot of EVE Online news, but I'm going to go run through it quickly. First up, we've got Crimson Harvest, which is the annual event that happens around Halloween time. It runs for 2 weeks. It's going to run, I think, till the 10th of November. Things to be aware of, loot drops are going to go up from 50% to 90%, which means if you're running around in Freighter in high sec, you're going to lose it because all of code and all the gankers are going to be out in force for those loot drops. There's going to be some combat sites associated to the event, but what's interesting is that they've put them in Bleaklands and Devoid and also Delve, so they're kind of like trying to draw all the players into the same area where the biggest war in EVE is currently happening. So yeah, everybody's showing up in the same place. And finally, the other thing with Crimson Harvest is make sure you log in all your accounts every day if you're an EVE Online player, because you're getting skill point bonuses. And if you log in for all days until the end of the event, you'll get 235,000 skill points, which is pretty cool. All right, then the other thing that went live recently was the Howling Interdictors update. What this has done is updated dictors. Now everyone flies a Saber. They're going to try and balance that out more. So in a nutshell, the Flycatcher has got more tank. The Eris is going to be lighter, faster, and smaller in terms of sig radius. And the Heretic is going to get more tank. Whether this actually helps, I don't know, because dictors normally agility is the most important thing for them, to be able to get away. So I don't know if this is going to help, and it'll be interesting to see. Also in the Howling Interdictors, we now got stasis webification probes, which is a different charge. So instead of popping up a bubble, you pop up a web field, which obviously you're going to want to use in conjunction with the bubble, otherwise everyone will just warp away. You can obviously can't put two bubble makers, or I can't remember what they're called now, but yeah, you can only have either stasis webification or bubbles. You can't have both. So you're going to have two dictors in order to be able to do bubbles and webs. And then finally, combat interceptors. You know, they're the interceptors that no one uses anymore because they are not interdiction nullified, which means they get caught by bubbles, where they're kind of trying to fix that by giving a 100% bonus to overheating your prop mod. So maybe you'll get back into the gate in time, maybe you won't. But anyway, maybe that will help the combat interceptors. I don't think it will. I think those ships are dead until we get the interdiction nullified back. But let me know in the comments what you feel about that. Then items that are coming soon to EVE Online. We've got the dynamic bounty system. And what this is trying to do is to try and move ratting in nullsec away from just being in one place and kind of spread ships out, which makes them easier targets and makes them more difficult to kind of protect. And then we also have changes to the ESS, that's the Encounter Surveillance System, that now this is no longer an optional thing because it wasn't really used. It's now going to become something that's always present whenever you are ratting in the system, and people can come and steal it. And I understand that Bjorn B, who's a big EVE Online streamer, has even created a corp called the Bank Robbers, with the whole idea of going off and stealing all of the funds out of the ESS. Now, with all the stuff that comes to EVE Online, obviously there's a lot of details, and I will link all of the links relevant to these in the description below. Then finally, a couple of personal items. First up, Dual Universe. Now, my housemate signed up to Dual Universe because he knew I'd done some videos on it, etc., etc. That's Niall. And he decided within an hour that it wasn't his kind of game. And he was required to get, at the time, the smallest subscription you could get was 3 months. And so he got a 3-month subscription. After an hour, he decided, no, it's not the game for me. Tried to get a refund from Dual Universe, and Dual Universe said no. They basically quoted EU law to him, which legally they're not required to do so. But yeah, that's a pretty low blow. Now, Niall contacted them another 2 or 3 times after that, really suggesting to them that this is really not good in terms of community and in terms of public relations, and they still said no. So be aware that if you want to give Dual Universe a try, that even if you don't like it after an hour, you will not get a refund. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention, as I really think this is pretty poor show. Even Steam lets you play the game for a few hours and I will still give you a refund on any game. So yeah, low blow. Then finally, still on the subject of Niall, Niall wanted me to do a shout out to Ian and Gina, Ian being Niall's brother. Ian and Gina got married last week, so we wish you all the best, and big shout out to you. And yeah, there you go. So that's pretty much it. I've wrapped it up for this update. I hope you enjoyed that. Please give me a like, please subscribe, please hit the bell icon. If you like the Planetfall, come and join me on Twitch on a Wednesday night. And that wraps it up from me. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one. Bye.